I hired a full-time helper here in the Philippines for just a few dollars a day, and it changed my whole life in a way I never saw coming. And no, it's got nothing to do with the money. Before we really dig in, do me one quick favor. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It honestly makes my day. Alright, let me take you back 4 years, to a hot summer afternoon in Ohio. There I am, pushing a mower across my own front lawn, sweat running down my back, the grass sticking to my ankles. That was my Saturday. Every Saturday. And Sunday, I'd be down on my knees scrubbing the kitchen floor, because that's what you do, right? You do it all yourself. By evening, I'd pop a microwave dinner, peel back that plastic film, and eat it standing at the counter. Alone, quiet house, the hum of the refrigerator. I figured that was just how retirement went. You work your whole life, and the reward is a clean floor you cleaned yourself and a frozen meal for one. I never questioned it. It's just what I thought old age looked like. Then I made the move. I landed in a quiet little village near Dumaguete, right by the sea, where the mornings smell like salt and ripe mango and the jeepneys go rattling past your gate before you've even had your coffee. I rented a small place, and I kept right on doing everything myself because that's the habit you carry over. Old dog, same tricks. A few weeks in, my neighbor came by. Sweet lady, everybody calls her Ate Rosa. That's a respectful way of saying older sister out here. We got to talking over the fence, and she mentioned that her cousin, a woman named Mary Lou, was looking for work. Cooking, cleaning, that kind of thing. Ada Rosa said it plain and easy, like she was telling me the weather. And I froze up a little. Honestly, I did. Because in my head, hiring somebody to keep your house, that was a rich people thing, country clubs and big estates, not a regular fella from Ohio who mowed his own lawn. It felt fancy. It felt like something I hadn't earned. I almost said no thanks right there at the fence. That was my first mistake in thinking, my very first one. Does that feel strange to you, the idea of hiring help? It felt strange to me too, believe me. Hold that thought because it changes. So I sat with it a couple days. And then I asked Ate Rosa what something like that would even cost, bracing myself for a number that'd make me wince. Here's what she told me. For someone coming 5 days a week, cooking my meals, doing the cleaning, handling the laundry, keeping the little garden out back tidy, I'd be looking at around 6,000 pesos a month, plus her meals on the days she's here. 6,000 pesos. I had to run the math twice, because back home, that's about the price of 2 dinners out. 2. You and your wife go to a decent restaurant twice, tip included, and there's your whole month of help gone. I'd been spending more than that on a couple of steak dinners without blinking. So Mary Lou started, and within a week the difference was something you could feel in the air. I'd come back from a walk and the laundry was hanging out on the line, snapping in the sea breeze. The floors were clean and I hadn't touched them. There was a pot of something warm on the stove that smelled 100 times better than any microwave dinner ever did. The little garden, which I'd let go a bit, was suddenly neat, the plants trimmed, the weeds gone. And here's where I need to stop you, because if you're sitting there thinking the surprise is the price, that it's just wonderfully cheap, you've got the wrong end of it. That's exactly what I thought at first, too. Cheap help, nice bonus, good deal. Pat yourself on the back and move on. But the number was never the surprise, not even close. The real surprise was what it did to my days, to my actual life, hour by hour. Something shifted that I never planned for and never saw coming, and it took me a good while to even understand what was happening. That's the whole reason I'm sitting here on this porch telling you the story, not the pesos, what the pesos quietly turned into. But before I get to that, and I promise you it's the best part, I've got to be honest about something, because it would be a lie to make this sound easy from day one. It wasn't. The hard part of all this was never finding good help. Good, kind, hardworking people are everywhere here. That part's simple. No, the hard part was me. It was figuring out how to set the whole thing up fairly. And my first year I fumbled it. Badly, if I'm honest with you. I didn't know what a fair wage really was. I didn't know the local customs, that there's a rice allowance folks include, that there's a bonus at Christmas they call the 13th month, that a fair rate sits a little above the going village rate as a sign of respect. I didn't know any of that, so I paid awkwardly. I'd hand money over at strange times with a strange look on my face, and worst of all, I hovered. I'd stand nearby while Marilou worked, like I was checking on her, like I didn't trust her. Neither of us said anything, but you could feel the stiffness. And that right there is the thing nobody warns you about before you move. Not the visa lines, not the power going out now and then. This. The quiet little customs that make the difference between a cold arrangement and something warm. That whole first year of fumbling is exactly why I sat down and put every single one of those lessons into my guide, OnewayGuide. The fair wage, the rice allowance, that 13th month bonus, how to have the conversation so nobody feels awkward, plus the visa steps and settling in without the headaches. It's all the honest stuff nobody told me, the shortcut I wish somebody had handed me on day one. If you want to skip the rookie mistakes I made, scan the code on the screen or check the link down below, because here's the truth of my first year. It wasn't the money that gave me trouble, and it wasn't finding Marilou. It was that I hadn't a clue how to set the whole thing up fairly, and my clumsy attempts at paying her almost made it awkward for both of us. There's a right way to do this, and once I finally learned it, everything relaxed. So here's what finally made everything relaxed. The right way to set it up. That first year I paid awkwardly and hovered over Marilou like I didn't trust her, and it made us both stiff. Then I learned to just sit down at the table and agree on clear terms, honestly, out loud, before anything else. If you've ever worried you'd get the money part wrong, listen close. This is the part I wish someone had told me. It's simpler than you think. You sit down, the two of you, at the kitchen table, and you talk about it plain, what the work is, what the days are, and what you'll pay. Here's the thing I got backwards at the start. I thought being generous meant just handing over more money and looking away, embarrassed. That's not it at all. What people here want is respect, so you offer a fair wage a little above the local rate. Not charity, not a handout, a fair number, agreed on together, a touch above what's normal for the area. That little bit above says something. It says, I see your work and I value it. And then there are the extras that matter here, the ones nobody back home would ever think of. First, a rice allowance. Rice is the heart of every meal in a Filipino home. So on top of the wage, you cover the rice. It's a small thing that means a great deal. In Marilou's kitchen, there's a sack of rice in the corner, and knowing it's always full, that's a quiet kind of dignity. Then there's the Christmas bonus. Over here they call it the 13th month. It works out to roughly an extra month's pay, given around the holidays. Back in the States, that might sound like a fancy corporate perk. Here it's just custom. It's woven into the whole country. Everyone expects it. Everyone honors it. And honestly, once you understand why, you want to. It's how you say thank you for the year. So when December rolls around, I hand Marilou the 13th month with a smile, and she lights up every single time. Now let me tell you why the hovering hurt. That first year, before I knew any of this, I'd pay her in dribs and drabs, a little here, a little there, whenever it crossed my mind. And I'd follow her around the house, watching, checking, like I was afraid she'd do it wrong. I thought I was being careful. What I was really doing was telling her I didn't trust her, and she felt it. We were both tense. The whole house felt tight. The day everything changed was the day we agreed on clear terms up front. The wage, the rice, the 13th month, the days, the hours, all of it out in the open, settled with a handshake. And I'm telling you, the moment we shook hands on it, something loosened in both of us. She knew exactly what to expect. I knew exactly what to expect. Nobody had to guess. Nobody had to feel awkward. When the money part is clear and fair and spoken out loud, everybody relaxes. That's the whole secret. It's not about paying more. It's about paying right and saying so. And there's a bigger thing underneath all of this that I want you to feel. We are guests in this country. This isn't our home turf. So we adapt, we listen, we learn how things are done here. The rice, the 13th month, the little courtesies. The whole arrangement rests on mutual respect. You respect her work and her customs. She respects your home and your comfort, and it holds together beautifully. When I came in with humility instead of some idea about how it works back in Ohio, that's when it all clicked. And here's what caught me off guard. Once the trust settled, Once neither of us was walking on eggshells, the thing slowly stopped feeling like employer and employee. I can't point to the exact day it shifted, it just did. The tension drained out, and what was left was two people who genuinely liked each other's company. You could see it first in the kitchen. One afternoon I was fumbling with a chicken dish, making a mess of it, and Marilu just took the spoon out of my hand, gentle as anything, and started teaching me. That's how I learned to make proper adobo, the real thing. Chicken simmering slow in soy sauce and vinegar and garlic, the whole house filling up with that smell until my mouth watered. She showed me how much vinegar, when to let it cook down, how to be patient with it. Then came the fresh lumpia. If you've never had it, picture a delicate little roll wrapped by hand, fresh vegetables tucked inside, folded right there on the wooden counter. She'd stand at the counter and roll them one after another, and eventually she handed me one and said, "Now you try." My first few fell apart. She laughed, I laughed, and we kept going until I got the hang of it. The kitchen stopped being a place where she worked and I stayed out of the way. It became shared ground. We cooked together. And then the Saturdays. Marilu has a little boy. On Saturdays she'd bring him along and he'd play out in the yard while we worked. Shy at first, hiding behind his mother's leg. But little by little he warmed up to me. And then one Saturday, out on the porch, he looked up at me and called me Lolo. Grandpa. Picture that for a second. A little boy calling you Grandpa in a village you moved to on a whim. I'll be honest with you, it stopped me cold. Here's this child, no relation to me at all, on the other side of the world from everything I used to call home, and he's looking at me like family. Lolo. Grandpa. I didn't know what to do with that feeling. It was too big. So now my Saturdays had this small boy running around the porch, and the pot of adobo bubbling on the stove, and Marilu rolling lumpia at the counter, and me sitting there thinking, how in the world did my quiet little retirement turn into this? The arrangement I'd set up so carefully with the wage and the rice and the 13th month all written out, it was quietly becoming something the paperwork never accounted for. And yet, even then, I'll tell you the truth. Even with the terms settled and that little boy calling me Lolo, I still thought of it, deep down, as an arrangement. A good one. A warm one. But an arrangement. She was the helper, I was the fellow who paid her, and that was the shape of it in my head. I hadn't let myself believe it was anything more. Then last year I ran a fever, alone in a house on the other side of the world. And what Marilu did that night is the thing I truly never expected. The thing that changed everything, the thing that finally showed me what this whole adventure had really given me. And it had nothing to do with the money at all. She could have gone home at 5 like any other workday. Nobody would have blamed her, but she didn't. She stayed in that little house near Dumaguete while I lay there burning up, sweat soaking the sheets, feeling more alone than I'd felt in years. And Marilu moved around that kitchen like it was her own. She made me soup. Real soup, from scratch, with ginger and a little chicken, the kind her own mother used to make when she was sick as a girl. She brought it to my bedside in a chipped white bowl. Then she sat down on the wooden stool by the door and she waited. Every hour or so she'd press her hand to my forehead, real gentle, and frown and go warm the soup up again. I kept telling her, "Go home, Marilu, your family needs you." She just shook her head. She would not leave until my temperature finally came down. Somewhere past midnight it broke, and only then did she gather her things and slip out into the dark. I lay there afterward, weak as a kitten, staring at the ceiling. And it hit me. That's not a transaction. That's love. You don't pay somebody to sit up half the night and worry over you. That comes from somewhere else entirely. If somebody has ever surprised you with that kind of kindness, you know exactly the feeling. I mean, that quiet lump in your throat, that realization that you matter to a person more than you ever assumed you did. So here it is, the thing I told you at the start that I truly didn't expect. I thought I was hiring a helper. I thought I was solving a problem, checking a box, getting the floors mopped and the laundry done. What I got instead was a second family. I did not see that coming. Not in 100 years, because it kept going after that night. Marilu still brings her little boy on Saturdays, and he still runs up the porch steps hollering Lolo, which means Grandpa here. He's got a gap where his front tooth fell out, and he shows it to me every single week like it's brand new news. She's taught me things a cookbook never could. How to get the adobo right, dark and rich, the vinegar and soy sinking into the pork over a low fire. How to roll fresh lumpia so tight it doesn't fall apart in the pan. We stand in that kitchen together and she laughs at how clumsy my big American hands are with the wrapper. And remember what I told you back at the beginning? That the real surprise wasn't the money, it was what all this did to my days? Here's where that comes home. My afternoons are mine again. All of them. Back in Ohio, my afternoons belonged to the lawnmower and the vacuum and the pile of dishes in the sink. Out here, the chores just get handled quietly, well, without me hovering. So now, when the heat of the day settles in, I go sit on the porch. I pick up a mango from the bowl, one of those ripe golden ones you can smell across the room, and I peel it slow with my pocket knife. I listen to the jeepneys rattle past on the road below, all painted up loud and cheerful, horns tooting, packed with folks heading to the market. And I read a whole book in a week sometimes. I have time now. Real time. The kind of unhurried, no place to be time I honestly forgot a person was allowed to have. That's what she gave me, without either of us planning it. Hours. Peace, a porch and a mango, and nowhere I need to rush off to. Now let me pull the whole thing together for you because I know some of you are sitting there doing the math in your head. And I get it, I did the same. Here's the honest picture. Marilou's wage, her rice allowance, that Christmas bonus, the food we cook, the rent on this house within earshot of the sea, add every bit of it up, the whole life, and it costs less than my property taxes did back home. Just the taxes, not the mortgage, not the heating bill through those long gray winters, not the car, only the taxes on a modest house in Ohio, and that alone was more than everything I spend to live like this. But I'm going to be straight with you, the way a friend on the porch ought to be. It was never the savings that changed me. The numbers are lovely, sure. They're what let a fella on a Social Security check breathe easy out here, but numbers don't sit up with you when you've got a fever. Numbers don't teach your clumsy hands to roll lumpia. Numbers don't come running up the steps calling you grandpa. I came to the Philippines to stretch a pension. That was the plan, plain and simple. Make the dollars go further, find a little sunshine for these old bones. And somewhere along the way, without me even noticing it happen, I found a second family instead. That's the part I can't put a price on. That's the warmth. And the warmth is what changed me, not the ledger. So if this life is tugging at you, let me put your mind at ease one more time. I know how it sounds from where you're sitting. Hiring help feels strange, maybe even a little fancy, like something only rich folks do. I felt every ounce of that my first year. I hovered, I paid awkwardly, I got it wrong before I got it right. But once you sit down and set it up fair and kind, a wage a touch above the local rate, an honest handshake, real respect, it stops being a hurdle at all. It becomes one of the best surprises of the whole adventure. I promise you that. And everything I fumbled through to get there, all the little lessons that first year, the fair way to hire, the visa steps, the 100 small things nobody warns you about before you settle in, I gathered it all up and put it into my guide, OnewayGuide. It's just the shortcut I wish somebody had handed me when I stepped off that plane. If you want to skip the rookie mistakes and walk into this gentler than I did, the link's waiting for you in the description whenever you're ready. Picture it for a second. The sun going down gold over the water, that porch, your plate full, and a whole family gathered around it, some of them by blood and some of them by the good fortune of showing up in each other's lives. The jeepney's quiet now, a soft sea breeze coming up off the shore. That's not a daydream. That's a Tuesday out here. You don't have to be brave to reach for it. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to treat people right and let the days surprise you. So take your time. Don't rush the decision. Don't rush the packing. Don't rush a single part of it. Learn the customs, be fair, be kind, and let the rest unfold at its own gentle pace. Because I'm telling you, from this porch, 4 years in, with a mango in one hand and my whole afternoon ahead of me, treat people right and this new chapter opens up gentler than you ever imagined, gentler than I ever imagined, and that's the honest truth.